Okay.
Well, good evening, one and all. Thank you so much for the next broadcast of the Human Potential Channel. Our goal is to share with you people on the show that have risen against challenges and disappointments. And in spite of those, not only have they overcome, but they've moved forward. It's our hope that as you listen to our stories, that you'll find something that you can do in your life that will make your life better, and that you will give us a thumbs up, you will subscribe, and you'll bring other people that you know, if not you, to our show to tell their story so that we can continue to pass it on. So I've got a very special guest tonight. We had the great pleasure of having dinner the other night, and the conversation was so delightful. I heard a story that just pulled my heartstrings, and I thought, oh my gosh, this woman has to tell her story. So could you please introduce yourself and let's hear your story.
Okay. Again, thank you for having me on the show. My name is Elke Gilbert. Um, we definitely had a great conversation at dinner. I really feel like our energies matched that night. A little bit about me. I'm just typical African American, but a little bit special is that I'm actually African. So my family,
A real
so my
African, a
a
real
real
one.
African, yeah. So African and French. So my family comes from the Congo. So I definitely have that as my cultural background. Moved here when I was little, and just been living in Texas this whole time. I went to Baylor University. I got my degree in nursing. Decided not nursing was not the route for me. Decided to go to medical billing. And then while I was doing medical billing, I decided, you know what? I've always wanted to work in business. I've always wanted to have my own company. I've always wanted to like do something for myself in aspect. And so I decided to make a company of my own, and I own two. My first one is a food truck. We sell mac and cheese out of it. And then I'm starting a Greek pudding business.
Now tell me about the pudding business. What is a pudding business?
So everybody knows what pudding is. That sweet delight that you see, you see it at the store. It just says pudding. A little thing, what's different about my pudding is that the texture is different. We use the same concepts that people use to make Greek yogurt, and we combine that with starch materials that are plant-based and make kind of like this like creamy, consistent pudding that is both plant-based, dairy-free, and there's no added sugar in it. So all natural, really good for people who have a gluten intolerance, people who have a lactose intolerant, and somebody who just wants a good treat that they don't feel guilty at the end of eating it.
So an overall treat that it isn't deleterious to your health, right?
Exactly.
So you don't have to actually have a health problem to want to be healthy, huh?
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, I'm
So
just
let
trying
me
to stay
ask
on
you
that
this.
route.
So you had the idea of doing this pudding and you
Yeah.
just got up in the morning, you did it and everything went great?
No, definitely
So
not.
tell me what
Def-
happened.
Definitely not. Kind of like, but I did wake up in the morning. I was like, I want some pudding. Went to the store, went to go get some pudding, and I was like, there's only one brand. It's either the snack pack pudding or it's the make it your own Jello pudding that comes out of the box and it's powdery. And so I was like, that's not really good. Like, well, there's no other choices, and it just surprised me. Like, there are so many choices for yogurt, so many choices for cereals and stuff like that. I was like, but there's no choices for pudding. So I'm stuck with this artificial tasting pudding. So I went home and I made my own. My mom has like a little secret ingredient that she used to make for puddings when we were little, and so kind of took that alongside with the fact that I can kind of make it healthy at the same time. And then gave it out to a few friends, and they were like, "Oh my God, this is actually really good." And I was like, "Really?" Well, like, yeah, maybe you should do something about it. And I did. Decided, oh, like anybody who's trying to start a business, how do you start a business? How do you start a food business? One of the recommendations is to sell locally. So I decided to join the Dallas Farmers Market and promote my pudding and see I mean, I can like my pudding all day, but it's really important if somebody else, the people who are going to be buying, are they going to like it?
So let me ask you this question. So you just went down to Dallas Farmers Market and they said, "Hey, great, come on in, pull your vehicle in. Let's."
Uh,
It wasn't like that.
no,
Okay.
no.
So there was an
Um,
obstacle. Oh my gosh.
there's definitely a big obstacle. What a lot of people don't know is that if you want to sell anything, especially when it comes to food products, you need permits. And permits, and especially, in Dallas, are expensive. Not a lot of people know that. They think they can just put in an application and they're going to get ready and going, but no. So a lot of health inspections are going to be brought upon how your puddings are made, what materials you use, where they're made, and that is just to apply. So you could be spending thousands of dollars and still not get accepted. So that pretty much happened to me. I spent all this money and I didn't get accepted the first round. I had to come back the second year and apply, and then luckily, that's how we got accepted. And
So
spend
when you came back the second year, was it just kind of like a luck of the lottery, or had you learned something and you changed your approach to your application, did stuff you hadn't had before? What made the difference?
well, in the beginning, my puddings were just your typical pudding. And it didn't matter, I was just using flour, sugar, all this different stuff. What I changed in my applications, I made it more healthy. I mean, just made it healthy. And that's what the Dallas farmers is looking for. They're looking for farmers, local farmers, but B, food that you can't just go to the store and buy. They're looking for somebody who's different, foods that, people are have made that been brought down from family generations, just something different. And so when I applied the second time, I made sure that I made an emphasis that, hey, our puddings are gluten free. So people who are gluten free can eat it. Or our pudding doesn't have dairy. And that's what surprised a lot of people when they came in. They're like, what? Dairy free pudding? I've never heard of it. Or, oh, your pudding has mixed Greek in it, has the Greek consistency in it. Oh, I didn't know. So definitely the second year was like the it factor. And then starting up, it was just
So
went from there.
so I hear a couple of obstacles you overcame. There may have been one or two others that you have forgotten about along the way. But now that you've got a product, you've now
Yeah.
have something that's, we'll call it unique. Hmm? There's not
Okay.
there's not a bunch of the same. So
Okay.
how do you get the world, or at least some subset of the whole world, to know that you have it, so you can sell enough of it with whatever margin is possible to cover overheads and turn it into a viable business instead of a charitable contribution?
Um, Definitely nowadays we have social media. Social media has been a huge aspect to my business. Yes, I have word of mouth. I have just the local Dallas community coming out every weekend. And one of the little things that we did was we passed out cards. And on these cards, they have kind of like a bulletin point of how many times they came and had our pudding. And every time they ordered from us, they get a little check mark and they take that card and they come back. You can share with friends. Their friends probably are in Dallas for that weekend, and they'd come down to the Dallas market and say, "Hey, my friend gave me this card. Looks like they're on their sixth pudding. I can have a pudding for free." And so that was like one of the biggest aspects was word of mouth. Second was definitely social media. A lot of people, Dallas Farmers Market's a little different because it's not like it's a stationary place. We kind of bid every week. There's a bidding on who gets to sell for that week. So keeping up with people on social media and telling them, hey, we're going to be at the Dallas Farmers Market this week.
So they
Come by and
want
see us.
they want vendors there that bring traffic. Is that what
They
they're?
bring traffic.
I see.
Exactly. And way
I see.
to bring traffic is to engage with your customers. I always have a review in the back of my card. Hey, tell me a review. Tell me what you like, what you didn't like. Maybe some new flavors that we can start off during the week. So I can go ahead and try it out, experiment with it, and then bring it out. And a lot of people really like that. They like the idea that they can have different flavors and different options.
So I've heard a lot of people say social media. That's a pretty
Yeah.
broad term. And I know a lot of people that have tried whatever they're thinking social media is and have flopped. So
Mhm.
what is essential in trying to actually use that as a tool that works?
So definitely whenever in my example of using my puddings, when they get that card, they're sending an email responding back to them. People love to engage with their consumers and that they're being hurt. And so a lot of times we would do on our social media platforms, we would do videos, online reviews, Instagram. We might, give out, different ingredients that they can use with their pudding. We can teach them how to make their own puddings at home. So a lot of people like to engage in those kind of things. So emails is definitely like the biggest thing was for me.
So how do you get an email address? Just by what you described, you get emails from people that went to the social media, that came to an event, and you built. How long does it take to build out a meaningful list by whatever method you're using?
So my first method was I was just giving out cards, and people, take the card, they put it in their wallet, and they forget about it.
Yeah.
But giving them the card and saying, "Hey, you give us a review, we'll give you a free pudding cup with that review." That's when we started getting more traffic. When people have an incentive to come back and keep reviewing it. And then, hey, if you there's a code on the back of my card. Hey, if you use that code in the back of the card and use it online or post it on one of our comments, again, you get a free pudding cup.
So now you had mentioned at the beginning of the show food truck. Is this
Yeah.
the food truck business, or is that a separate business, or do they fit together? What does that look like?
Oh, the food truck is a different entity. What happened with that is, I mean, mac and cheese. I went to, our Chipotle down the street and I was like, I don't want rice, I want pasta. And there's not really a lot of pasta options, places that you can just get good pasta. I mean, unless you're looking for like a sit down restaurant. I was like, why is there not really a fast food sit down restaurant where I can get some good mac and cheese? And so that's where mac and fromage came into play. Again, we use Dallas Farmers Market as a vessel for us to get, our products in front of people at first. Bought a food truck, met this guy who takes, trailers and he constructs them into beautiful, beautiful, beautiful food trucks and designed to depending on how you're going to sell. We're definitely we're going to have like high traffic. We need something that's efficient, that we can get the food in and out, but we also needed a window where people can come up and take orders. And so he made that customizable for our food truck. And then I went to the farmers market, sold there, and different festivals around the DFW area.
Okay, so festivals and farmers markets, and those are some. Well, farmers market was every weekend, is that, or once a
Every
month, or
weekend,
every
every
week?
weekend during the peak months.
So a certain time of the year, peak months, the
Mhm.
summer, spring-ish, maybe, huh? Uh,
Yeah,
you don't necessarily get in every weekend, so
no,
that's a
it's
part-time
like,
deal.
of
And then you
course,
got festivals, which is a part-time deal. So you
of
got two
course.
part-time deals. What can be sandwiched in between along with that to make it more consistent on terms of both customers and cash flow?
Yeah, of course. We do weddings. Weddings is a really big one. People are getting married all year round and are looking for vendors to vend at their weddings. So we do that. We promote on Wedding Pro. We promote on The Knot. That's how we ended up getting a lot of brides who are looking for vendors. Second is apartment complexes. Apartment complexes love to have these like monthly events for their tenants, and we would go to each apartment and be like, hey, can can we sell at one of your events? That's just cold calling apartments around the area. And I'd say about 85% of the time, they're like, yes, we would love that. They're looking for something different than just your typical, Tex-Mex or barbecue. So definitely mac and cheese, gourmet mac and cheese was definitely something that they're like, okay, that's a little different. Another thing we do is go to uh, business buildings, business parks. A lot of people are looking for lunchtime. Don't really want to drive anywhere too far. Just want to come out and get a bite to eat. So around the Dallas downtown area, there's definitely some places that we can park and sell some mac and cheese.
I've seen around construction sites, big ones where there's a lot going
Oh
on. I'll
yeah,
see trucks come up and sell probably not quite the stuff you're selling, probably
yeah,
more the less healthy choices. Let's call it that. So
yeah.
do they have to pay to go to these sites, or the construction companies are happy to have them drive by so their workers don't have to go far to get something to eat, or is there a whole uh, way that you have to deal with some kind of bureaucracy to be able to be there?
Well, number one, like I said before, a lot of people don't know you can't just get a food truck and go park down the street. No, especially in the city of Dallas, you need your permits because if you don't have your permits, not only are you gonna get fined, but you can actually get your food truck actually taken away from you. So that's like number one. Number two, on these construction sites, a lot of times it's just by contacting the owner of the building or the place that you're trying to park and asking them, hey, is it okay if I can park here? Most of the time, they're going to ask for some kind of commission or they're going to ask for a monthly deal. But construction sites is definitely, contacting whoever's in charge, asking, hey, can I park my food truck here? And most of the times, construction sites are not going to ask for commission. They're just going to be like, hey, yeah, just come ahead, just make sure the food is good. And the people who eat your food are actually the one are going to be deciding whether or not you're going to be coming back for a second time.
Because
So
they decided they liked you. And let
they
me ask you
decide
this:
you're not.
although it's food,
Mhm.
is there any? Does it make a difference whether the people like you or not?
Yes, it does. It
The
definitely
politics of
does.
experience.
Definitely does. Being in the food industry, it's all about customer service. It's definitely connecting with your guests, making them feel welcome. Like let's go back to the construction site. These men are hot and hungry. They've been outside in this Texas heat and they just want some good food. But at the same time, they want some good company. Asking them how their day went, how their day going, are they staying cool? Usually coming up with like little stories of, hey, um, what you guys are building, things like that. So most of the time they stay around the food. They don't take the food and go away. They stay around the food truck. They eat there, and they're talking to you at the same time and asking you, "Hey, where else are you parking the weekend? My kids love mac and cheese. Where can I find you next?" So that's another way to like network too.
So let's think about this. You go from nursing to medical building to food trucks to puddings to food trucks. We'll call the pudding food trucks, right? Even though they're
Yeah.
not the same. So for our listeners that have gone down a path they found not fulfilling, can you describe why you went to nursing? What was that? And then how you went to medical billing, and then how you decided you'd go to this. What was that process? I want people listening to say, well, I don't really like the way my life is either. I'd like to change it, but I just don't know what to do. And often, if they don't know what to do, they do nothing and just
Yeah,
continue to do what they don't like.
of course. So coming from an African family, everybody who's in that culture knows you only have three options technically. You're going to be in politics, you're going to be a doctor or a nurse, or you're going to be a lawyer. And that's the kind of family I came from. So being a nurse really had nothing to do with things that I wanted to do. Yeah, I was smart enough. Yeah, I could, do the coursework, but it wasn't anything I was passionate about. So when I started doing nursing, it was just to make my family happy in the beginning. Then I did what everybody do, get your degree, go out in the field, and I definitely found out that I do not like it. I didn't like the politics around it. I love the patients, but there's times where I just feel like I wasn't found important. I was just one person in this big hospital, and it didn't matter if I was tired, if I was hungry. At the end of the day, it was just about working. And after COVID, it burned me out. I was done. I was working, 24-hour shifts, back to back, and I was tired of it. Luckily, in college, I took this minor in medical billing. And, I was like, I have this minor. I can go ahead and calm down a little bit. I did what my parents wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And now it's time for me to do what I want to do. And like I said, I wanted to do business. I didn't know what I wanted to do at the time, but I know I needed to do something that wasn't taking so much of my time out of my day. Well, that allowed me to, brainstorm, do some research and figure out what was the best route for me.
So in medical billing, I mean, it's obvious the doctors have patients that come in that have insurance.
Yeah,
And most people don't understand the insurance company don't just send the money in. There's a whole process behind the scenes.
yeah.
And you are the person that takes what did the doctor claim he did? What are the codes that each
Hmm.
one of whatever number insurers, government or otherwise, have to have. And if you
Hmm.
don't do those right, that's simple for them. They just said, oh, we're not paying this. And of
Oh,
course,
yeah.
if that happens to the doctor enough, they go without income, right?
Yeah, exactly. Without income, we don't get paid, and a lot of people don't know that. It's a hassle sometimes. Sometimes the insurance company doesn't wants to pay, I say, about 25% below the asking price of what we're asking. And already in our clinic already, we're fair. We're fair when it comes to billing our patients. We're not trying to take, money, like take the last dime out of you. But essentially my job is make sure that we're getting paid for the services that our doctors are rendering. Because if not, they don't get paid, and if they don't get paid, we don't get paid. So it's a lot of calling on the phone, talking to insurance companies. Sometimes people who barely speak English, which is okay, but when you're trying to communicate, medical terminology, sometimes miscommunication does happen, or um, the patient calls you in the back end. They're just like, hey, why hasn't my claim been paid? And it's just like, well, I've been trying to deal with the insurance company for, I don't know, 3 months now. And at the end of the day, some insurance companies, you have 3 months to get this claim paid. You
Or
have three
they
months
don't
of
pay it. They
haggling,
just
or
say, sorry,
they
it's
don't
too
pay.
old. We won't pay it at all.
Sorry, it's called timely filing. Sorry, it's after the timely filing limit, and so you can't pay. And we can't go back and go charge our customers, especially when our customers are under governmental plans like Medicare or
Right.
Medicaid. You can't charge them, and so there we go. Left out, we did a service for free.
So here's what I'm hearing. Although you said you didn't like politics, it sounds to me like you've gotten masterful at it. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people say they don't like politics, and what they really mean is they're frustrated with having to deal with people. If it wasn't for other people, my whole life would be easy. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, there are other people, or fortunately. So, what have you found you use now that you think about it, your
Uh-huh.
method to first not get into a fit within yourself so you go into confrontation with people to dig their
Uh-huh.
heels in the ground, and at the end of the day now everyone's mad and you don't get your money. How do you keep yourself from being angry? I'm not saying you
Uh-huh.
don't sometimes feel frustrated, but what
Uh-huh.
method do you use mentally to manage yourself, your emotions, and then help the people on the other end help you get what you need?
I know it might sound a little silly, but a lot of people are like, "Oh, deep breaths." No, deep, hard breaths, especially when a lot of people are talking to you at the same time. Just taking that moment to just like either, for me personally, I just go to the bathroom, look in the mirror, take a couple deep breaths, and I tell myself, okay, this is my problem. So you have to realize what your problem is at the end of the day. What are you trying to fix? What solution are you trying to get? These are the list of my solutions that I'm trying to fix. And then from there you figure out which is the best route to go. A lot of people, they act on impulse. So if somebody's yelling at me, or somebody on the phone is not understanding, the first thing you want to do is what? Yell, or throw away the phone, or tell the person next to you, hey, I don't want to speak to you. But you can't do that, especially when it comes to billing. It's really, really strict that everything is precise, because anything that is could be found not to be true in the medical billing board, it's called fraud. And you are going to go to jail. Not the doctors, not the person that was yelling at you over the phone, but you're going to have to go to jail. So I have to, at the end of the day, I have to figure out, I have to like collect myself and tell myself, at the end of the day, I'm here to do a job. I'm here to be precise, and I can't be precise if my emotions are taking over. So
Or if
definitely
you're in
deep breath.
prison. If you're in
Or in
prison, it would
prison.
really impede on your
Or
ability
in
to
prison.
work.
Yeah. That's a big one. It's like no medical fraud, because at the end of every medical billing sheet, I don't know if a lot of people are looking at their medical billing sheets. On the very bottom, it says, if anything here is inaccurate, please let us know. And it's the fraud department. And I mean, it could be just the littlest thing, and there you go. Try now, you got to pay lawyers. You would probably lost your job. I would lose my job. I
Sure.
don't want to sit around and pay all my lawyers for me and trying to get yourself out of the situation. So definitely collecting yourself.
So the negative consequence of you going down the wrong path is substantial. There's a lot at risk
Yeah.
when you think of it. that deep breathing. So if all the things you think of, the
Mm-hmm.
deep breathing helps, because if anyone looks into it, it actually changes the chemistry in your body. When you begin
Exactly.
to feel stress, there are hormones being released in your body, and you're getting tension. People call it that your heart, your chest gets tight. It's
Mm-hmm.
very common under stress to stop breathing. People don't really
Mm-hmm.
realize that, or breathe shallower and shallower. Now your body isn't cleansing, the chemicals are building. I've talked about this on other shows. The way the brain works is it's a memory unit. So the
Yeah.
chemicals come in your body and you give a title to that feeling, whatever it is. And then your
Mm-hmm.
brain starts thinking, what else is this like? Oh, and it starts firing off, and you don't even know this. It's firing off
Yeah.
every other time you felt that way. And the chemicals are washing through your system. And the longer you let it go on, and the more you go into combat mode and start losing your temper, the worse it gets. So, and
Mm-hmm.
people have strokes and heart attacks, right?
Yeah.
So, other than just deep breathing, now that you think about it, because every time you're talking to somebody, which can be all day, there's probably
Mm-hmm.
often a chance to get frustration.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say, hey, a minute, put them on hold and go to the restroom for 5 minutes and breathe. What do
Mm-hmm.
you do other than just that to manage the stress?
Um, I would definitely say, looking back at it, especially on those like times like that, I'm on the phone, I'm like, I don't know what to do, is writing down what my problems is. I usually have a notebook when I'm writing on notes and stuff like that, and I write down, I literally on the sheet, and I write down, okay, this is my objective on this call. This is what I'm trying to do, and so I remember, okay, bulletin points. Okay, I need to do this, 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 and this. So it doesn't steer me off of any emotions that I'm going through. Because at the end of the day, my brain works. Okay, if I have a list and I have objectives that I need to meet, that's going to keep me focused than worrying about whatever is going out on on the outer on the outer world.
So I would guess in nursing school, they teach you process and procedures, kind of like a
Mhm,
drop down chart. When this
mhm,
happens, you do this. If that happens, you
mhm,
have these choices. So what
mhm,
I hear you, your mind
mhm,
works like what I would call like an engineer's mind. You have
mhm,
flow charts in your head of
mhm,
practices that will find you optimal solutions under
mhm.
difficult circumstances. And although
Exactly.
you might not have consciously knowing this, you've taken your nurse training, you've applied it to billing, medical billing, and you also, and then you don't go to jail, and then you've
Mhm,
also been able to take that out to starting a business. So here's something that I want our audience to see. You start something you didn't even want to do. Maybe you thought you had to do it. And
mhm,
then you ended up with something else you wanted to do because you didn't want to do the other, but you had the credential to be able to do it. The step
mhm,
up, but still not the solution.
mhm.
But you didn't just throw that in the trash and run off and start a business with no money in the bank, and now you're living in your food truck, right? So
Yeah.
it's a step-by-step process where you don't have to take unreasonable risk. You don't
Mhm,
have to throw caution to the wind. You can take what took years to learn. You don't
mhm,
throw that away. You take
mhm.
those problem-solving skills that you were taught and you apply them along the way. So let's
Right.
imagine a time in the future
Okay.
when, although you dearly miss it, you don't need to
Mhm,
stay at medical building for the income. You
mhm,
have turned your uh, food business or something like it or related to it. So let's just
mhm,
stop for a moment. Let's pretend that the food business isn't your end business. It's a
mhm,
process that you're learning. It might be. I don't know. I'm making this up, right?
mhm,
So imagine the life that you would like to have that you can create for yourself and how you would create that life. Knowing this, you have
mhm,
to air correct. I've never had an idea as great as I
mhm,
thought they were that when I
mhm,
executed it, I didn't find out I was wrong. I'm always wrong,
mhm,
but I
mhm.
adjust, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
as you look at that life like you would like to have it be, what's that look like?
Um, Definitely mentoring.
Yeah.
I really do believe that um everybody has a dream. Everybody has a dream. Everybody has a goal in mind and things like that. But not everybody has a support system that will help them achieve that dream, or at least give them in the right direction.
Yeah.
Um, Even though I did come from a family that were like, you need to do nursing, you need to you need to do this. They still encourage me along the way. Even as I transitioned from nursing to medical billing and then to my business, my mom, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
My mom, like, still pushed me to, like, okay, this is what you want to do. I wish you the best. Go do it. So definitely in my life, if I really didn't have to worry about anything, is mentoring other women um who want to have that same life that I'm in right now, but they just don't know where to start. And it could be just simple as asking somebody, like, you don't know how much people want to do something in their life, but nobody's ever asked them or given that maybe they feel like they even have the option to do that they can do something with their life. They didn't just have to stay around and do their 9 to 5 for the rest of their lives. So mentoring kids from little kids to, you know, college to even, grown women, that you can follow your dreams as long as you have a belief system and as long as you have the drive. Nobody can stop you. And definitely being that voice for those people is definitely something I want to do. Whether it's, getting them in the right with the right people who I know who can help them in a certain field, or me and them sitting down and be like, okay, let's do this. Like, okay, you want to start a clothing brand? Well, where do you get the clothes? How do you get the clothes? So that's definitely, that would be a pride and joy, because that's something I wanted, and at the same time giving back to, like, what my family and my mom especially gave to me.
So isn't this interesting?
Yeah.
Because I didn't hear you say I want a sports car and a mansion and to take vacations and wear Gucci purses or whatever. I'm probably dated. Gucci maybe isn't the big deal anymore, but fancy purses. We'll call it fancy purses,
Yeah.
fancy shoes. Please don't misunderstand me. Anyone on that's listening to this, I have nothing against nice things. I like nice things too.
Yeah.
But what I hear here is you're saying what would make you happy is to help other people be free.
Yeah.
That would make you happy. And when you come up against a wall and you feel concerned about your business not going the way it should, maybe you're running out of money, maybe you break up with a partner, all sorts of things happen in business. You lose a big client. What will push you through that is not wanting a big house. I know this for a fact. What will push you through that is say, the reason I need to win is I need to show other people they can do it.
Yep.
That's a
Most
big one.
definitely.
That is a big one. I knew that there was something about you that I liked, especially when I first met you. And now I understand very clearly what that is. You have a driving need. Probably what made nursing tolerable was that you wanted to help people. You just
Yeah.
found that environment wasn't
It
going
was
to
not.
help people, not
Yeah.
fulfilling. Not
Most definitely not.
so it's complicated to be you. It's taken you entire life. Maybe you've had support that some of our listeners don't feel like they did. It sounds like you have a wonderful family.
Yeah.
Uh, what can someone do immediately now after hearing this show that is just as easy not to do, but it could be the first step into changing the rest of their life this minute?
I would say get yourself a notebook and write down your goals. And write down a chart. On the left side of the chart, write down where you're at currently. It could be instance, I I'm working at this place. I have this much money in my bank account. I am in this kind of relationship. Everything that you want to that you have right, you're in the situation right now that you want to change. So write down on the left side things that I'm currently living in my reality right now, and read it. And for most people, it's gonna be disappointing, because I know for me it was really disappointing. It was like, man, like, at this, at
This
this
is
part
it.
of my life,
Like, this
this
is
is
it.
it. This is this is what I
This is my
was
life.
born for. This is my life. Like, and it might surprise you what you write down, because some things, it might be the easiest things might be that, oh, I'm not in the job I want to be, but it could be something simple. Like, one of the little things on there was like, my skin is not as clear as I want it to be. And in my in my in what I feel like was more important, it didn't come up to head. But when I sat down and writing, I'm like, wow, that is something I actually really care about, is how my skin looks.
Yeah.
So That's what you do on that left side. You write, what your the current situations that you want to change. And on the right side, you write opposite of that. What do you want your life to be? So for me, I wrote down, I'm a nurse. On the right side, I wrote down, I'm a businesswoman. And when you do that, don't be like, I don't want to say delusional, because a lot of people say delusional, they find like that's a bad connotation, but be delusional. Write down
Well,
and be
don't be a critic,
specific.
right? This is the time to
Don't be
create. Don't
Yeah,
criticize when you're
don't
creating.
criticize. Just do it. Just do it. So I wrote down, I'm a multi-million-dollar businesswoman. And I did that through each and every step. And then I sit there and I'm just like, okay, so this is where I am, and this is where, and making sure you write them in an I am form. So you are in that situation. So on the left side, I am a nurse, but here on the right side, I am a businesswoman. And after you look at that list, you rip it up, you throw away the life, and it signifies that this is the life where I'm at, but I'm no longer a slave to it. I am going to exceed and I'm going to go further. So you're going to throw that left side away, and now you have this right side of all your dreams and your aspirations, and you put it somewhere where you can see it every day. So for me, instantly I put it in my bathroom mirror, and it's right there, and it's been there for a year now. And you year it and you date it. That's really important. You date it, because when you look back at it and you see what you've accomplished, it's going to make it the biggest difference. And at first, it might be just the little things, because like one of the things I put was like, oh, I'm fat. And then on the other side, I was like, oh, I am muscly toned. And I come back, 3 months later, I'm like, oh my, I've actually been working out. I'm muscly toned. And you know what? I scratch it off. And that scratch off also is reminding me that if I can do the little things, why can't I do the big things?
Let me ask you a question about this dreaming of the future you want. How important is it to keep it to yourself instead of telling everybody?
So important, so important, so important.
Why? Why?
As a Christian, I believe that if God gives you a vision, gives you an idea, that's for you. If it was for somebody else, He would have given it to somebody else. So this is for you and you alone. When you start taking your ideas to people, especially who are not in the same mindset as you, they're going to be either quick to judge or quick not to understand. And the problem with people right now, they look for validations in other people. Because I did. I'd be like, okay, I want to do this, and they'd be like, okay, cool. Well, how are you going to do it? Well, you don't have that money. So automatically that discourages me. It's like, oh, I guess I can't do it.
What was I thinking? What was I thinking?
Of course I can't do it. When you are asking, advice and validation from people who are not even where you want to be, that is absurd to me. And it took me a little bit to understand that. That how am I going to look for validation for somebody who hasn't even accomplished not even half the things I want to accomplish?
So if you have the life that you have that's dissatisfying, and then you have the life that you'd like to have, to go from dissatisfaction to the perfect life probably doesn't happen overnight, right?
No,
so you need to look at what you want. Businesswoman. So if you haven't been a businesswoman, maybe you learned something at medical billing, kind of watching that business. Do you need to, okay, well, what does it mean to be a businesswoman? Who can I find that is a businesswoman? Did you do some of that so you can start to get some steps?
Oh, definitely. Like I said, Google. I Googled. I was like, how to be a businesswoman. And obviously, you're gonna have all the articles in the world of like how to be a businesswoman as everybody else's ideas and stuff like that. And so I spent one night, and you know what? I'm just gonna, give, an hour of my day today, and I am going to have like my journal on the side and write down the biggest points and bulletins that I feel like were most important, things that I can do today in order for me to be a businesswoman. The first day of being a businesswoman, I wasn't going to go out and buy a food truck. But one thing I can do is I can write a business plan. I can register my business. I can write down, oh, these are the kind of do market research and figure out, okay, what's my market is going to be. Oh, I can make, things are, don't cost you any money, I can make a social media page. And then I start following people again who are in the positions of where I want to be,
Yeah.
and then go through their pages and see what did they do. And you make sure you're following somebody who's authentic, not somebody who's trying to sell you a course and tell you, hey, I'm a millionaire at the age of 25. This is how I did, buy my course at, something $1,000.
Right.
Definitely don't do that.
Right.
Definitely go for the people who are just trying to, like I said, mentor people and get people to be in the exact same position as you want to be at.
Especially you talk about Google, we have YouTube.
Yeah.
Every morning I get up at 4 o'clock every morning to start my day. And part of that is whatever project of knowledge I'm working on.
Uh-huh.
I look through YouTube and I'll listen for an hour every morning on
Yep.
people that are in those fields. And
Uh-huh.
then eventually what rises to the top is the difference between the promoters and the people
Uh-huh.
they're successful. They don't need
Yeah.
your money, but
Yeah.
they feel what you talked about. They want to give back. They
They
want to
want to
give,
give back.
and you learn from them. And then you'll hear them talk about someone you never heard of. So then
Yeah.
you can go look up their YouTube.
So look at that person. Yeah,
And the next
exactly.
thing you know, you're hearing 20, 30 brilliant people that are
Uh-huh.
successful beyond imagination that you didn't even know existed in the 7 or 8 or 9 billion people that are in the world. So,
Uh-huh.
and as you listen to them, it's encouraging. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you wake in the morning, you look at your list, right?
Uh-huh.
And when you come home at night, you look at your
I
list.
look at my list.
And when you start your when you decided you wanted to be physically shaped different than you were
Uh-huh.
at the time you wrote your list,
Uh-huh.
you started doing things that would change that. You've noticed you've made progress in that
Yeah.
direction.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
success is a process. You
It
never
is.
really arrive ever. You're never
Uh-huh.
really done. In fact, if you
Uh-huh.
got perfectly fit, ripped, and everything, if you stopped working out, that goes away.
Yep.
If you take one good bath and you look really great, unfortunately, people notice they probably have to take one the next day, right?
Exactly.
So make a list, what you have, what you'd like, throw away what you have. And when you write what you would like to have, fantasize. Don't
Yeah.
worry. Don't. This is about breaking loose your thought processes. You'll
Uh-huh.
adjust as needed as you go down.
Yeah.
In fact, here's what I found, and tell me if you found this. You thought you wanted something, whatever.
Yeah.
And then as you move toward it, you started to realize that's not really what you wanted. You wanted something that comes from that, and you adjusted and filled that gap with something that was truer because most people are not clear.
Yeah.
So you got to get clear. Well, this has
Yeah.
been absolutely wonderful. All these shows surprise me. Every guest that I have educates me. I go to every show with no thought in mind or expectations of what will happen. I have never once in the maybe dozen shows I've done since I started this year have had a guest where I didn't learn or wasn't surprised
Yeah.
and where I didn't learn something that changed me. I want to thank you so much for your time today. Hey, how can someone get a hold of you if they want to hire you to cater something, if they want to ask you a question about being a business person, if they
Yeah.
want to get some puddings, how would they get a hold of you?
So the pudding, they can email me at info@pudvana. So that's PUDVANA.com. So if you want pudding, you want to learn more about it, you want the nutritional facts in it, definitely can do that. When it comes to the food truck, it's going to be info at Mac and Fromage. So that's FROMAGE, macandfromage.com. For booking us with the food truck. And either one of those websites, definitely, if you just want to say hi, or hey, I saw you and I would like to learn some more about it, or how can I get to where you're going, either one of those
They
emails I can
find you at
take.
any special social media site if they want to
Yeah,
start?
and then definitely on our social media sites. So we have Pudvana. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on Instagram, and you can also find us on Facebook. Same thing goes for Mac and Fromage. gosh, too.
Well, you are
Uh,
absolutely a delightful person. I am so
Thank you.
glad that by sheer accident we met one another and that you've been kind enough to share your time on the show today. Hey, I want to tell everybody, please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe and do the black bell so you get notified every time there's a show. Please send us people whose story you would like to have them share with us. And as we all pull together and do some little thing to better ourselves and others, I guarantee you, I can tell you, it's the happiest I've ever been in my life since I started focusing on what can I do with my success to help other people be successful. I'd like to thank you very much for your time. Please do subscribe. Please do follow us. And thank you so much. It's been delightful.
That's great.